What is up, everybody? As you can see, I'm a lot more relaxed in this video, just laying on my bed, laying on my pillow pet. No judgments out there, but it's because I just watched the movie from my bed and I really did enjoy it, overall. But if I would be lying if I said it wasn't a little awkward for me, like knowing that I am a Catholic. So it was pretty awkward at first, but kind of going through all the ropes of that, it wasn't bad to watch because it's the truth and you kind of got to live with that and it's wrong regardless morally. So I thought it was a good movie for sure, journalistic wise. Um, so really just to get started, I do believe through this question prompt that this was the best journalistic movie based on reporting, getting research, getting the interviews, the stories, how people denied, like Garabedian would deny interviews, didn't want anything to do with it, and the victims themselves, kind of the hard, uncomfortable talks that they had to go through. I thought that this was definitely the most realistic film that we've seen, and it's pretty obvious why it won an Oscar, um, to show for that. So I would say they approached their job super well, and it was super authentic in the case that they didn't or they did have a lot of time that they had to spend on their job. And that's the hardest thing we see in about every journalistic movie is that he was away from his wife a lot. And Garabedian asked if that was hard for him, but he said, um, this is my job. Like, she's okay with it. I have to do it anyway. That was Rosenda that said that. And I think just the persistence of this whole thing, like, I think persistence is a word that we need to use more when it comes to journalism. And we saw that a lot through this movie with Resenda is he would not give up. Like he knew how big this story would be. Think about it. It took them months, years to write this story and get the interviews from the victims, from the people. Once they got the 87 priests knocked up on the 6% uh, system, then it was pretty much good to go for what they were going to do. So, I mean, I think persistence is a word that needs to be used more when it comes to journalism. Um, on the lifestyle of a journalist, yeah, like I said, it's just a ton of work, man. Like away from your family a lot. You're doing research constantly, which that is one thing I like to point out is that I loved how this movie showed a lot more of the background research. Like after they found out about the 87 priests, or before that, they'd scroll down lists. You'd see them on their computers looking at different stuff, older newspapers that they'd find. And just kind of the research, it kind of shows step by step how they made this story. And I don't think we see that in a lot of the journalistic movies. They all just kind of cut to the chase of the final endpoint. But this movie really showed step by step what journalism really is and what it's about. Yeah, I think a scene that stood out to me was when the woman talked to that first victim and he was walking down the street and she had to ask him some pretty gruesome questions about like what type of sexual intercourse they got involved with, and he was straight up honest with it, told him um what the priest did to him, and it's really uncomfortable, but it is, and I know I've used that word a lot, but it is factual, and that's just kind of how the movie went and kind of how it had to be portrayed because that's a real life situation. Um, Other things I would note. Oh, I know I'm at 4 minutes. Um, it doesn't change my opinion of reporters because that's just kind of the way it is. Like reporters just have to be persistent, work hard, give away a lot of time. Um, would it, and lastly, like, would it make me more likely to become a journalist or no? I'm in between about it because I do want to raise a family someday, like a lot of us probably do and be around it. But at the same time, you're gonna have a job regardless. And I think it's so hard the grind of getting the interviews, the reporting, the writing, the research, and all that. But at the same time, once it's done and once you find out that you dominated some kind of story that's huge and you knew it was going to be huge, it's probably the most relieving feeling ever, and you probably feel super good about the work you did there. So it definitely has its pros and cons. I wouldn't say it changed my opinion on whether I'd want to become a journalist or not, but this was definitely the best journalism movie. I know I've never even been to Kansas, maybe once, but go K State. See y'all in class.